Welcome to this video in which we will be looking at how to take user input, create objects using the given user input, and then write the objects into a text file. So do not be worried about the program you see on the screen. I'm just going to remove it shortly and we're going to write some methods together and we go along, and at the end you will see how the whole process works, how we write objects into a text file. So this habit of working with software that you find already written is a very, very important skill. It's sometimes as important as just writing your own code. So this one is from our previous video, but I'm not expecting that you watch the video or you know everything that was said in that video. So I can just take you through this program so that you can understand what is happening here. So from then, we will modify this program not only to use hard-coded values, but to use values that are taken from the user when the program is running, and to create the objects when the program is running, and also write those objects into the text file. So let me just take you from the beginning. Okay, this is the text file that we are expecting, the kind of content we're expecting in the text file when we write the object. So for the car, it writes the year and the make of the car. And also for the same car, it writes who the driver is, giving us the name and the age of the driver. So the text file is something that is going to be the result, or the content of the text file is going to be the result of what we'll be doing here. So to begin with the classes, the Java classes, now this is a driver class. In this driver class, there's just a name and an age, which represents a driver object. And then there is this constructor, which is an overloaded constructor. And the set name method, what it does is the same as this.name equals to name. So it initializes the name attribute of the driver, and also the age, same applies. And then what follows from there are getters and setters, which I am assuming that you are a little bit familiar with. And then at the end, we have a toString method. So this toString method, it returns name plus name of the driver, and then the age plus the age of the driver. So this is the toString method for the driver object. So the driver class is simple. It only contains two attributes. And then this is a constructor. And then what follows from there are the setters and the getters. What follows from there is a toString method. There are no complex methods in this driver class. It's simple. The two attributes, a constructor, and then it's setters and getters. And then there's a toString method. So that is it. So now coming to the car class, the car class now contains or has three attributes, one of which is the make, and then the year in which the car was made, and then the driver. And the driver is an object, and this object has a type that is user defined, because this driver class is the one that we wrote ourselves. So the car class is defined in this way. When it creates objects, it can either create an object using a default constructor in which the make is initialized to be empty, the year is 0, and the driver is null. The car doesn't have a driver. It was made in year 0, and the name is just empty. And then we proceed to the overloaded constructor of the car class. The overloaded constructor of the car class takes three attributes, has got three parameters defined on it. And the first one is the string, which is the make of the car. The second one is the integer, which is a year in which the car was made. And the third one is an object of type driver, or an object from the driver class, in which we just use those three to instantiate the car object using the overloaded constructor. Moving from that, what we have here are the getters and the setters for all the attributes. So my assumption is that you are quite familiar with the getters and the setters. If you're not familiar with them, we have a video here on this channel specifically targeted to getters and setters. So you can click on the channel and then go to videos, and then you just scroll down or search. You will see a video dedicated to setters and getters. So now the last thing we have here is a toString method. This toString method, what it does is that it returns a string, first of all, and the string contains these words. It's make and the make of the car, year and the year in which the car was made, and then it says driven by, and then driver.toString. So driver.toString returns a string representation of the driver object, because the driver is not just a primitive type like doubles, integers, and booleans and characters, but it is an object. And if it's an object, we can use the toString method to put the string representation of it here. And the string representation of this object, we can just go back to the previous class to refresh about it. What it does is it returns the name of the driver and the age of the driver. So what we're doing here for the car, we're putting the name of the driver and the age of the driver here. Yeah, so now I am assuming that you have a rough picture of what's going on here. But the most important part is that we can create objects using this constructor, and those objects have a toString method, and the toString method returns something like this. So even if you look at the cast.txt class, the file, sorry, it has this string here, which is one line. This was an example used in our previous video, although you do not have to watch the previous video, but this was an output when we were writing one of the car objects into the text file. So from this car class now that we have seen the three attributes, the default constructor, the overloaded constructor, now that you also have seen the getters and the setters, and then we have seen also the toString method. Now what we can do is look at how all this was instantiated. And to do that, let's go to the car tester class. So in the car tester, what is happening is that we have the main method, first of all. And in the main method, we create driver objects. Here, we create car objects, associating the car objects with the drivers. And then what we're doing is we are writing one of the cars into a text file. And this is the procedure to do it. If you want a more detailed video on how to write to a text file, just without any of this much complexities, you can just check on the channel. We have a video dedicated to that, in which I was explaining what is going on here line by line. But let me just give you a recap in case you didn't watch the video. So what happens here is that we have this file object, and this file object specifies a file name that will be created if it doesn't exist. And we're going to write to a file that is named cars.txt. That is in the same directory as this object, as this project we're working on. Or if you're using a different IDE of a file, the text file might be in the same folder as the files you're working with. And then what is going to happen here is that the print writer is the one that is used to write to the text file. You can think of the file object as a paper, and you can think of the print writer as a pen. So the pen is used to write on the paper. And the pen, if you attempt to use the pen to write on a paper that is not there, the pen gives you an error. So just an example. but the print writer writes to the file in this case. So on the file, you write using the print writer. And to do that, we have a try and catch statement. And the try and catch statements help us to deal with an error that is possible when we try to write to a file. If the file does not exist, then we know how to handle that error. So using the try and catch blocks is our approach to writing to the text file without having to see runtime errors, but we catch any exception that comes through. If you have no idea about what I'm talking about with try and catch statements, there is also a video on this channel dedicated to that. You can just go to the videos and then you'll find it. Okay, now in this line, we are connecting the print writer with the file. So this file here is the same as that one there. So the file object is being, the print writer object, sorry, is being connected to the file object so that it can write to that file object. And then what happens here is that now the print writer, pw.println, so we are printing card2 to string. And card2 to string is simply this. So what is card2? This is card2. What is the string value of this? It should give us the name of the car, the year, and the driver, the string value of the driver. And who is the driver of car2? Is Musa with age 38. If you go to this cast.txt file, you find that Musa with age 38 is the driver of that BMW X 2020 model car. And that is how it writes to the text file. But I'm going to get into more detail about that later as we now take the input from the user and then do everything. So to be able to do all of that, taking the input from the user and getting everything done, let's just do this. Now, let me import. Now we'll need a scanner to write to, sorry, to get the user input. So import java.util, okay. So now let's define a method that can create driver objects, taking input from the user. So we can say public static. We just make it static, and then what does it return? It returns a driver object. And what is the name? Just say create driver. No, let's modify it so that it doesn't look like the method from the previous class. Let's just say create driver. Yes. And then what does it do inside itself? So we can say string. What do we need? What attributes do we need to create a driver? We need a string name and an age, integer age. So you can say string name equals to this, and then integer age is equals to, let me just put a 0 there. So now we have defined these two attributes, these two variables, and we initialize them. We're going to use these two variables to create the driver object. Okay, now we need a scanner object to take input from the user. Scanner in is equals to new scanner. And what is this scanner doing? System.in, sorry of that. Okay, now we have the scanner. So we have to ask for the name and the age of the driver. System.out.println, sorry, dot print, just say print, and driver name. So here we're asking for the driver name, and we say name of the driver is equals to, just paste that, it is equals to in.next line. Okay, that's the driver name. We're taking it, and then we copy the CV. And then now what we can do is ask for the driver age. And then here, because this is it, so the age is equals to in.next int. I'm assuming that you can take input from the user. That is why I'm rushing like this. And I seem not to be very much like into explaining what's going on line by line. So now after that, what we can do, let me just do the formal old way. Driver is equals to new driver. Sorry. So now we are creating the driver object now with what attributes? Name and age. And then what we do after that, we return the driver. Okay. No. We don't return the type, we return the object. Yes. Now everything is fine here. We define the attributes we want. We initialize them here, taking input from the user. We create the driver object. Let me just write the comment here. Because this code, I'm going to make this code available like I usually do, and I also did for the previous video. So to create the driver object. And then the driver object has got the input from the user here. Okay. Now we return the driver that we created, the driver object that we created. So now we no longer need this because, wow, it's going to waste time for us. And then now let me also remove, okay, I'm not going to remove the other one immediately. Let's create one method that returns now a car object. So the one that returns a driver object ends here. Let me just say driver method ends. Let me just put that here. Okay. Now let's create a method that returns a car object. Don't worry about the red lines here. Now we are using object names and the objects no longer exist. Just don't worry about this part. Please focus on this. What is going to be written here at the top? Here. Yes, there. So now for the car, public static, what does it return? It returns a car. What's its name? Let's say create car. Like that. Doesn't take anything. And then what attributes do we need to create a car? We need a string, we need an int, we need a driver. Okay, that's fine. So now to do that, let's just say string. Oh, sorry, we need a scanner as well in question. New scanner. I could have created one scanner that would be shared by all the methods. It could have still worked. I don't know what I missed there. Okay, system.in. Could have done that. That would have been much smarter and faster. But yeah, car name. Yeah, the car name initially is empty like that. And then int year, the year in which the car was made is 0, just like that. So now I'm defining the attributes here, the variables that I will need to create a car object, because it needs a string, which is the name, and it needs an int, which is the year, and a driver object. So let me just create also a variable for the driver object, because we will need it. Driver is equals to null. For now it's null, but later we will update it. So now what happens here is that what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask for the user input. Let me just please allow me to do this. Yes, I'll do this. Copy from here, from the old method, and now bring it there. So what is happening now here is that the car name is going to be taken in place of that. So the car name now is taken from the user, and of what is this? Is the year. Oh, no, it's not. Actually, it's not a car name. It's a car make. And then it's the car year, and then the year now here. And put the year there in the next int. We're just assuming that the user will enter the right data types, otherwise we're in trouble. But we're pretending that we don't know that we might run into that trouble. Okay. So the driver object now. Now the question is, should I be asking for the driver details again from the user? No, the answer is no. Now I define this type here. Or maybe let me remove this. Oh, but okay, let me just provide the alternatives. I define this here and initialize it to null. Now I can do whatever I want here and initialize it. Or the alternative is just to do this. Something that's much more straightforward. Let me just V. Now, instead of me trying to create a driver object using hard-coded values, I can just pass this method there, like that. So I'm just going to do that here, V, and then there we go. Now the question might be, why does this thing work? Okay, so first look at the left-hand side here. The driver is equals to create driver. So now our driver object is going to invoke not the driver object itself, but this line is going to invoke this method. What does this method do? This method, whatever it does, at the end, it returns a driver object. And this is where it creates it, and then it returns it here. So what that method will do, it will ask for the user input for the driver and create the driver and return the driver. And then that driver that is going to be returned is the one that we're going to assign to this variable here, this variable here for the driver. So after asking for the car make and the car year, it's going to prompt you with the questions from this method. And then at the end, what do? We say car, which is a car object, is equals to new car. Now, what does this take? We wanted to take the make, the year, and the driver. So with that said, we can just say car name, oh, that was not named well, but it's similar, but it's okay anyway. And then there's the year, and then what last is the driver. Now that we have created the car using the attributes, the variables, sorry, we now return the car, the return car object. Okay, now that's the beautiful part of it. Now we are starting to use user-defined objects to create something like, I could say, variables. And now here, instead of this doing all that, we no longer need that part. We no longer need that. We no longer need that part. So now, instead of us here doing all the work, what we will do is that we will just say, okay, this is the task of writing the car objects into a file. Okay, that's fine. So this part opens a connection to the file, and we create a print writer to write to the text file. And then here we connect the print writer with the text file. And then after that, we have to write to the text file. Okay. Let me just say we know how many cars we want to write into the text file. Let me say we want to write 4 of them. So let's say for int I equals to 0, I less than, no, 4 is too much, guys. Let's put 3. I plus plus. Okay. Now what are we doing now here? I can just say, so that method is for creating a car, right? For int I 0 up to 3. So I can say here, I want to create 3 cars and write them into a file. I can say car. Oh, sorry. I can initialize the car variable outside. Say car equals to null, like that. And then what I can, this is bad practice, don't do this. Yes, paste there. Someone is going to read this and it's going to be painful. So now that you are writing the objects into the file, what we first have to do is car is equals to, what is the method that will create a car for us? This is the method. And that method, when it creates the car for us, it's going to ask all the questions we want to ask the user, and it will create the car. And then what do we do to the print writer? Say that pw.println car.toString. Now, this is the beautiful part of it. Like, this is almost where it ends. Okay, so let me just take you through what's happening here. Yeah, we've written a lot of code currently, about line 68. This is too much. Okay, so what happens here is that we first define a method that is going to take user input and create a car object, a driver object, and return the driver. And then next, what we do, we write a method that is going to return a car object. It asks for user input and also create a driver object using the previous method, which is defined above, which also returns a driver. And then it creates the car object. And then after that, it returns the car object. And then what we did here, we open the connection to the file, and then we use the try catch block to write to the file. But we knew how many times we wanted to write car objects into a file using input from the user. So we initialize this variable car, and we did that. So after connecting the print writer with the file, so in this for loop, we are creating a car object 3 times when I is 0, when I is 1, when I is 2, because this is how the for loop has been designed. So when we create each of the cars, we write them into the text file after doing that. So our file name is cars.txt. Let's just reset the window perspective. I want to show you something. Perspective, reset perspective. Yes, I want to reset to default. There we go. Okay, here we are. This is the file I'm talking about. This is a cars.txt file. Let's use a new file name so that we know that a new file has been used. Okay, say cars from user.txt. So what we're expecting is that when I run this program, this cars from user text file is going to be created. And when we are writing to the text file, which is what we do here, it is to that text file that the car objects will be written, not the previous text file. So I don't want it to be like this thing has been pre-written. You can even check here, and I can even cut off this, remove it. And then we just run this program. You should notice from this side, the cars from user.txt file will be created. So when I run this now I'm running it. And then it says comic. Let me say BMW X5. Yeah, that's the comic. The year is 2021. What's the driver name? Let me just say Manaliso. That's my name, by the way. And the age, I don't want to put my age, but I'll put it. And then what's the comic? Sorry about that. I should have distinguished it. This is now the new car, a different car. This is a different car now, but okay, I'm gonna just proceed anyway. So what's the next car? Mercedes. It is Benz. Benz. I don't know much of the models. And then the car year, just say 2019. And who's the driver? Let me just say Vinny. And then what's the age of Vinny? Is 34. And then now that's the third car it's asking for. Let me just say Golf R. The year is 2021. And the driver name, what's the driver name? It's Musa. And then what's the age of the driver? 90. It's done. Okay. Now it is done. Now, if it's done, let's see here of where's our text file? Yes, let's see. I want to see something here. Maybe I should reload this. Where is the refresh button? Refresh, F5. Okay, let me check this directory. Something should have happened. Let me check the directory. Where are we? I think the IDE is taking some time to load my file. It should be showing here as one of those ones. But let me just go to this directory. So it's Getting Better, SRC, Getting Better, car tester. Okay. Let me go. I'll share the new screen. It's in the desktop. I'm looking for the workspace so that I can locate the text file, because it's not very obvious. I've got a lot of things here. Yes, okay. Getting Better. Yes, cars from user. Yes, we have them. So I'm going to share the new screen now. New share the text file. Share. Yes, so this is it. So this is what happened. This is what was written. If you feel like this was pre-written, it's okay. You can write the program as the exact way as I did. You will notice that you will get the same output. This is what happened. We wrote now all those objects into a text file. Now this marks the end of our lesson. But just to recap, we were taking input from the user and writing objects into a text file. I'll make this code available. Now, this is where we end. Thank you. See you in our next video. I hope this video is going to take its own time to sink in most of the concepts that we've done here. Thank you.